Sean Capri, and welcome to We the GamerCast. It publishes every single Monday at youtube.com/carpoolgaming and patreon.com/carpoolgaming. Apparently this week it's all happening at the exact same time. Thank you guys so much for being here, for telling your mom, for telling your dad, for telling your friends, and for telling the friend that just like they're always there. Why are they there? You don't know, but tell them about We the GamerCast. I'm trying to tell you, thank you for spreading the good word. Thank you guys so much for being here and for listening. I'm excited that you're here. I've got a lot on my mind. Oh my goodness gracious. I've got a great chat coming up for you. You know who's on the show. It says it it's the title of the show. Will Key from the Outbreak Podcast is here, and I'm going to talk to him. Actually, I kind of did already, but for you, it's in the future. I never know how to sort any of this stuff out. How are you guys? Are you okay? Is everything all right? For me, there's a lot going on, and I'm glad that you guys are here. Typically, I start things off by thanking everybody at patreon.com/carpoolgaming, and I'm still going to do that. I'm going to thank everybody for supporting us over there. You get amazing perks at that $3 tier, like an episode of the Yumi and Capri podcast. And in this, the latest episode, Ryan Turford and I sit one-on-one, and it is almost like a We the GamerCast with Ryan Turford. We talk about recharging our batteries and what it's like to be an introvert and a lot of other amazing things. And patrons have already listened. The reviews are in. They're enjoying it. And shout out, we gotta get this thing printed out, actually. Our Patreon has been called the Game Pass of Patreon. There's so much content, and I feel like there's actually more on the Patreon side than the free feed. So sign up there. Now, normally I go through a list of the patrons over here, and I hope that the patrons will understand that I'm going to do a little bit different this week, because over the weekend I completed a half marathon. It was 21-ish kilometers of me waddling along. There wasn't anything pretty about it. There was people far faster than me, but you know what? None of that even mattered at all. It was all pushing myself to my limit and hopefully inspiring people to raise money and just raise awareness for suicide prevention. Every September, I've done this event. I've done it as a half marathon twice now before, kind of bouncing in around between a 5 kilometer or 10 kilometer run. But always in memory of my friend, Justin Ching, who passed away, from suicide, 8 years ago now. And it has always been my mission to stand alongside Justin's family, especially his mom, who I've become quite close with, and let her know that we will never forget Justin. And through the work, and even through just this podcast, I think is a great example of, we can have conversations about this stuff. We can be honest with each other. We can be open with each other, about all aspects of mental health. Doesn't have to just be about suicide prevention, but I've just felt like this show in particular has created a space for all of us to be, like I said, very, very open and honest with each other. So through this show and through the community and through many people from around the world, we were able to raise nearly $2,000 this year in memory of Justin, and going towards probably second or third even top fundraiser for the overall event. So that's really what matters. The time for the half marathon isn't really what matters, but I always feel obligation is the wrong word, but I feel very strongly to push myself and to inspire others to be part of this in any way they can. So instead of thanking all the patrons this week, I actually wanted to thank all the people who helped raise such an incredible amount of money through the donations. So I want to thank McBale, Matt Sawinski, Tony Baker, Charles McGregor, who developed a wonderful game called Hyperdot, and he donated twice, and he donated very generously. So thank you to Charles. Tim Paulin, Marcus and Lindsay O'Neill, Court Lalonde, Seamus Mullins, Josh Stapleton, Nagachaka, James, and a few other anonymous donors. You guys are incredible. McBale, in particular, I got your notification of your donation midway through the run. I don't know if you realized that you did that, but my watch buzzed. I saw I got a donation towards the fundraising total, and that means everything, man. There's a lot here. I don't even know if I have enough time to talk about it all. I might have to bring some over to the Pants Patreon podcast for Patrons podcast, but I do want to get a couple things off my chest here. First of all, a huge thank you to Marcus O'Neill and his wife, Lindsay, and son, who were there at the finish line, and I didn't know they were coming, and I need to share the video of me crossing the finish line. My wife had brought the kids, and they had noisemakers, and they had special shirts, and I didn't know anything that she had planned or anything that she had arranged. Oh, it's kind of hard to talk about. It was so special, and at the end of 21 kilometers that I wasn't prepared to do at all. My kids were waiting for me and cheering for me. I don't know, very close to the end, to the finish line. And I thought, well, that's weird. Why are they here? Why aren't they at the other side of the finish line? I remember thinking, like, that's a very, I'm kind of out of sorts, so maybe I didn't get it at first. But then I hear my wife say, "Run with Daddy to the finish line." So they ran with me, and they crossed the finish line with me. It's unforgettable moment, just like, will be with me forever. And as I cross the finish line, there's my wife, of course. There's a wonderful lady in a Toronto Maple Leafs jersey who I will now not hold that against her. But at first I was like, what's the deal with that? And I look over, and it's Marcus O'Neill at the finish line cheering me on. And the woman in the Toronto Maple Leaf jersey is his wife, Lindsay, and they're there with their son. And I didn't know that was happening, man. And I just, like, for anybody who's done a challenging event like that, to have people there cheering you on and supporting you, it's everything. It's man. I think oh God, there's actually too much. There's too much. Marcus, that meant the world to me, man. That was amazing. And obviously Chelsea just crushes it again. I'm just very lucky to have wonderful people in my life showing me how it's done. You guys are all amazing. We did the thing. I'm very sore. I've got a pretty wicked blister on one of my toes. But it could be worse. It definitely could be worse. And we're just doing what we can to be there for Justin's family and to keep his memory alive. He was a special person, the brightest smile you could ever imagine. What happened to him was a tragedy. And if we prevent even just one other person from doing it, then we've at least accomplished something. Man, if you guys are struggling, please don't do it. Don't do that. Oh my goodness gracious. It's so hard on everyone around. Please talk to somebody. Just talk to somebody. Thank you guys. I want to talk about, I don't actually want to make it about me. There's some other stuff that I was going through that I actually don't even want to make it about me. That might be for another podcast. It might be for another time, but, people around me just made this weekend very, very special. We did the thing. I feel exceptional about it. And I'm just very grateful to all you guys. Okay. Maybe we'll come back to it at the end of the show, but I just wanted to, address the half marathon. And then we did the thing. You guys are great. Okay. William Key has been on the show before. You guys can find him in the feed, so you can get kind of like an origin story. We do make a couple of references to the when he was on last, and what I love about this conversation is just like the growth and the changes. Man, the focus on making sure that you take care of yourself is at the heart of this conversation. So I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys will follow Will on Twitter at Will Key and listen to the podcast, the Outbreak Podcast, and all the links are in the show notes. You guys are amazing. Here he is, my good friend and yours, Will Key. Nice, man. Well, how are you doing with it all, dude? Like, that's a lot going on. It's a lot of change, like, happening all the time. Like, how is it going for you?
Yeah, so I'd say with Finn, I've gotten a lot more comfortable since I think the last time we spoke. I've finally kind of gotten into a groove, and I've been hearing that by the time his second, third birthday comes, they like to throw a wrench in those plans, and the terrible twos start to kick in. It's already starting to kick in a bit. He's starting to show attitude. Yeah. But I've gotten into a pretty good routine. Oh yeah, the attitude, it never ends. But I've gotten into a pretty good routine with him. There have actually been a couple of evenings that, it's just been me and him, because my wife has, like, during the summer, she works as a lifeguard. She does swim instructions, like, people's backyards, like, with their kids.
That's awesome.
But she's also involved in, like, basically every sport under the sun. She plays rugby, volleyball, baseball. So if she's home during the week, it's maybe 2 or 3 times in the evening. So I've actually been taking up a lot of the responsibility of putting him down for bed in the evening. Yeah. And it's really helped me to sort of build that confidence in myself that I don't think I had a year ago in feeling like I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that came from losing that through COVID, not being able to go to a lot of the appointments to ask the questions that I needed to know about what am I supposed to do with this little thing when it comes home, right? And I've just been, like any parent, just figuring it out as you go and learning what works and what doesn't. And I honestly, like, not to toot my own horn, I actually do think I'm a really good dad.
Good for you,
although
man.
I do sometimes feel like a helicopter parent, but it's the first kid. I think it kind of comes with the territory, and I just obviously worry about him getting hurt or getting into something he's not supposed to. And so I'm trying to kind of like stop myself and just let him explore. But yeah, there are times where it's like, okay, you've been sitting on Grandpa's tractor for 45 minutes. Why don't we try playing with one of our toys at the front of the house? And then he throws a fit and cries for like 20 minutes because I've like taken him inside to get him a snack. And it's like, it's just patience, just breathe. It's all good.
Oh man, you seem good though, dude. Like, that's nice to see. Like a nice. There's an ease about you, I think, that I'm picking up on. Maybe it's the beer. Maybe it's the Budweiser.
The beer definitely would help, wouldn't it? I'd say the last, it's been up and down. The past year and a bit. One thing that has changed a lot, at least in the past year, was I've actually switched jobs. I was talking to you about that earlier. Still with the same company, but I'm actually now working for corporate. And that was a funny story in itself.
You sold out.
That's where I wanted to be all along.
Good for you.
Yeah. So I had this sort of epiphany moment when I turned 30 last year. And then the new year started, that I was not happy with the hours I was working.
No kidding.
When we spoke, I was working 12-hour days every 2 weeks, rotating from a days to an overnight shift. And I realized that, like, trying to balance that schedule with, once my wife Sam ended up going back to work, and then having Finn in daycare, and then figuring out, okay, well, because my wife is a busybody, right? Like, she wants to be out and she wants to be doing her extracurriculars, like her sports, and still be able to have a life, right?
Yeah.
But because I was working evenings, I felt like my work was kind of getting in the way of that, right? And that in turn would affect her mental health as well as my own. And so somebody within the company, it was actually a family friend who first got me into the company that I was working at, had posed this suggestion of, like, in the past, they have actually looked at people that they really like in the company and have basically given them positions. Like, if you apply to a job or show interest in something, they would create a position for you. And up until this point, that seemed unheard of to me for, like, other jobs that I had worked at the past, right? It was always like, well, if there's a job posting, I'll just apply to that job. Or if it's like, look for something that's got the title of the job I want, and I'll apply there. So I was actually looking outside of the company for what I really wanted to do, which was to get back into writing or something with journalism or communications. But what ended up happening was that there was this job posting that came up for something called, like, an email marketing specialist. I didn't know anything about it. It said you required 8 to 10 years of experience. You got to know this, that, and this. And I'm like, I don't know any of this stuff. But what do I have to lose by just applying for the position?
Attaboy, anyway, nice. Yeah.
So I beefed up the resume. I sent it in. Of course, was not expecting to hear anything. And then about a week later, I get an email back from the vice president of marketing within the company and said, I saw your resume, I saw it come in, and while you are grossly underqualified for this position, I was intrigued by your resume and your background and would like to, set up a meeting to talk with you and learn more about you. Because, of course, on my resume before working in the plant, I had worked in communications, I had worked in journalism, right? So we ended up having a 40-minute conversation over the phone, just about my history and how I got to where I was. That in turn, ultimately, she directed me to their senior communications manager, who set me up with, like, a writing test, and we were having back and forth meetings. All the while, my family had picked up COVID, and then the lady I was reporting to also picked up COVID. and then we caught the flu. So this went on for like a month and a half of just back and forth, and then not knowing where it was going to go.
Meanwhile, you're still having to do your job. Like, you're still like,
I'm still doing my job.
Yeah.
And maybe only told like one or two people. I hadn't even told my direct supervisor yet that this was happening. And then I was off during COVID, and then I get an email or a call from my plant manager who said, "Oh, so-and-so was here at the plant looking to talk to you." And it was the girl that I was supposed to be reporting to. She must have been at the plant just going to talk to our general manager and just wanted to come by and meet me in person, but I wasn't there because I was home with COVID.
Yeah.
So it was unfortunate. But the fact that she was asking, I was then sitting at home wondering, like, what is going on? Like, what are they planning on doing with me?
Yeah.
And are they just going to string me along? And then, like, I was thinking worst case scenario at this point. Like, they hadn't said anything. I don't think I'm going to get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then
Wait, so hang on. So when, like, you applied for the email marketing job, but wasn't that? But then they were interested to learn more, but had they told you what they were, like, guiding you towards? Like, was there any they were just like testing you? You're just like, okay, let's see what you got. Like, what's in that brain of yours?
Yeah, so they gave me basically a sample piece to write, and they had a couple of examples on their website of like project profiles for.
And you're going through these tests, like this battery of tests, and you don't know what's on the other side of it.
And I'm just basically trying to write something to the best of my ability to what they're looking for. Based on what was already pre-existing on their website. So they wanted to just see my skill. But I didn't know what that was going to ultimately.
That's like, wild, man. Well, how was that for you? You were like, I guess it doesn't seem to even register to you that like that was maybe unusual or something. It's like, yeah, sure, throw at me 5 writing tests and whatever else, and we'll just see what happens out of this exercise. Like, I guess, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know, maybe it's just me. That seems unusual.
No, I mean, I think that because part of me was nervous because it had been so long since I had been paid to do writing. It had been probably 3 or 4 years. So I felt as if I had some sort of like rusty gears that needed to be oiled again, right?
Yeah.
But then, writing is a lot like riding a bike, and that when you just start kind of doing it, you get back into the groove. I wasn't even entirely sure if what I was going to write for them was going to be what they were looking for.
What kind of writing? Was it promotional, like marketing kind of stuff, or technical writing?
This was a little bit, but not too much. There was freedom to sort of be creative, and it was kind of like a
short stories.
Yeah, it was more like a project profile that I was writing. So like, because the company I work for deals with paving products like paver stones and retaining walls, it essentially, we were talking about like a site that used our product there, and I was talking about the product and what was used there, talking about the history of that site and maybe why they turned to us to want to incorporate our product there.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to sort of like, I had then sent an email because I'm looking at this project and I'm like, it's not listing which particular products are here. So I'm like, dumb question, what products were used on this project? Because it's not listed here, and I don't want to just make it up. Right? Because I'm like, I could very well make it up, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I mean, it's not as if like I even know what the job is going to be at the end of this. So I guess there's no stupid questions. I thought, okay.
And little did you know that was the test. Would you ask the question? That was the test.
No, she was glad that I asked. She's like, that's a great question. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I do this writing test for them, submit it. I don't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And then I finally get an in-person meeting with her, and she's talking about the job, and it's a copywriter position. And, bear in mind, like when I think copywriter, I think marketing department. And I have no idea. Like, I didn't go to school for marketing, but I felt as if at least the writing skills could kind of correlate, much like from going from journalism to communications. There'd be some similarities.
Mm-hmm.
So all I knew was that my task was going to basically just be writing all day, whatever they would throw at me. And that's kind of what it ended up being. I was even able to negotiate my salary too, because I told them outright. I said, listen, this is how much I'm making here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you match that or get me close? Because I don't want to literally drop down $30,000 a year. You know what I mean? Like, I can't really afford to do that. So I came out of it with, a generous amount, I guess, without giving too much away. But beginning of May, I officially started with them as their new copywriter.
Wow.
And I've been working from home 4 days a week and once in office, but it's in their downtown Toronto office. So I don't have to deal with anything with the plant. That plant can crash and burn for all I care. It was on its last
Oh
leg
no!
anyway, so
Don't put that out there.
No, they were taking away a lot of products that we were originally producing when I started there.
Yeah.
And they only had 2. When I was leaving, they only had 2 products that they were running, and it was an auto line machine that was basically failing every time they got it to run.
Like the ice cream machine at McDonald's.
Exactly. It was essentially the ice cream machine at McDonald's.
Dang.
And that they would not afford to send any decent repairmen to fix it. That was we were just
part of its brand, man. It's part of the expectations. So how is like quality of life? Like it's got to be totally different. And I have to comment on the fact that the last time you were on, we were talking about your unbelievable hours, and I was commending you on basically just like doing whatever it took for your family. And it's like comparing that to where you are now, like, is it nice to know that you don't have to do that for the sake of your family? All the sacrifice, and maybe it was worth something, and that it was temporary. Maybe you didn't even realize before it was temporary. Like, do you ever think about like where you are now versus that? Like, that's mind blowing, dude. What a difference.
Yeah, it's amazing to think just how much more time I have back on my side.
Nice.
I felt as if I was giving so much energy and time to basically do these mundane tasks that weren't making me very happy at the end of the day. And the energy of just some of the people I was working with felt very negative, but like in the last couple of months before I decided to leave. Sorry if I burp, I'm drinking. The beer is making me all bubbly.
I was waiting for it.
I was like, please don't let it be a big one. But yeah, it's the transition from the plant to the corporate world was very seamless. In fact, my first day in office, when I got to meeting everybody, it was as if I'd already known them for 6 months. Like they just welcomed me with open arms, and they were more interested in my background because funny enough, I'm the only one that has come from the plant. So I had prior knowledge of making the product, and they were all asking me questions like, oh, like, what did you do? Like, which products did you make? And I'm like, nothing you would see in the catalog, unfortunately, because they've discontinued a lot of them. But I had that experience for 4 years of being on the ground floor and getting my hands dirty, and then to now come in, and I feel like I have that. Like I'm not like starting from scratch and trying to learn everything as I go.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like I already know the product. I already know the brand. So I have that edge coming in that I didn't have at prior jobs. And I feel like I've come in and it's been like, regardless of the amount of projects that they've handed at me, like that work-life balance is so much healthier than it was working in the plant. I can just sign off at the end of the day at 4:30, and then that's it. I don't have to think about work until I turn my laptop on the next day, and that feels good.
Yeah.
And I think that was well needed, at least for my family, because I think they could tell that like it was wearing on me physically and mentally.
Yeah.
Obviously it's not to say that I don't still have anxiety for other things, because anxiety grows and shifts and changes, and it manipulates you in different ways. But the work side is not stressing me out as much as it used to.
Do you compartmentalize in that way? Like you kind of have like almost like a meter on like personal or work or whatever else, like, because that's like, honestly, that's kind of how like I kind of picture it as like carpool gaming and content and family and professional and health and fitness. Like I always see them as like I'm juggling balls. And to be honest with you, like this week in particular, it's just like everything is just, it's all on the floor. So I'm just bending over and picking stuff up. But I definitely feel like I've got meters that I'm just trying to keep from collapsing. That's the way.
It's almost as if you're playing a day in the life of The Sims, right?
Totally.
You're trying to match everything, and you're trying to keep everything up so that your Sims are happy and that they're,
it's too real.
That.
It's way too real. They nailed it. They absolutely nailed it. And I don't know. It's a difficult thing to unpack, because I don't know if I view it that way because of The Sims. Like I played like the original back in whatever the heck that was, 1997, or like on PC and whatnot. But yeah, that's definitely like that came from from somebody who's experienced life, you know. But do you think, like, not to make it about me, like, do you feel like, you know, this is a pretty significant change as far as what's expected from you in terms of like the number of hours, or like there's like a normalization, maybe, if I can say that like now you've got like a more typical like 9 to 5. Like, does that represent anything to you? Is this just like where you're at right now? Like, what, I don't know. Is there anything more than just the career change, or is this just like another phase? It seems like it happens as you roll into your 30s here. So it seems like there's a lot happening for you, man. You've got your son growing up. You're turning 30. You got your office job. Like, I don't know. There's a whole thing. There's, you know, you're turning into what they show on TV. You know what I mean?
A nice young, well-established man.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, was this part of the ideal? Like, is this kind of you're realizing things that you wanted, or is it just flying by the seat of your pants?
I think a lot of the time, it may be a blend of the two.
Sure.
It may be that like I could be in denial day to day, and then there's one day I'll just wake up and it'll just be like, I want something different. Something like, you know, it was like the good example of this is last week I finally decided to sign up for the gym again. I had put it off all summer. But work had been offering me like a fitness incentive, which I had just neglected to take. And I could have taken it back in May when I stopped playing hockey for the summer, but I didn't. And I put it off. And then all of a sudden I just woke up and I'm like, I'm going to do it. It just sort of snapped into place.
Yeah.
Like today's the day. And that's for some things. That's kind of how I've operated. And it's, you know, I think the idea would roll around in my head, but I would just keep kind of putting it off, and then eventually I'm like, I will revisit this. It's almost as if kind of prioritizing, or you know, seeing what falls into certain priorities. Like, for example, I've also been telling myself I need to redo my prescription for my glasses, but I've been saying that for 2 years, and I feel like one day when I'm squinting at the television and I'm literally sitting 2 feet from it, I'm gonna be like, maybe it's time to go get those.
Do you not have any glasses? Like, are you wearing contacts right now? You're not wearing. You have nothing.
No,
and like,
I have.
Where's your vision
glasses
at?
for. I'm I don't know the number, but
sure. But
I use mine for distance. So I've had glasses since I was 10.
Yeah.
But because
you should get
most
glasses,
things,
man.
I do. I have glasses. I just don't wear them often. Because I'm in a lot of environments that I'm in. Most things are now close up, and it's like I'm not going to sit and wear my glasses while watching the TV if it's literally 4 feet away from me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like if I was driving on the highway and I needed to see a sign, that'd probably be a good place to put my glasses on.
That's kind of what I'm thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, but like my vision is not like that bad. Like so I was able to just pass at least for the roadside, like that. I don't need my glasses in the car. So I can squint at the last minute to catch a sign and then turn, you know what I mean?
Well,
but like,
dude,
I know it's not good for my eyes, but I've been squinting since I
mean, you even brought it up on your own, and I'm sitting here like giving you a hard time about it. God knows I got stuff I got to get taken care of. So I'm just busting some chops a little bit.
So it's all good. Somebody's got to bust my chops, because I mean,
if nothing else, you got to see that detail in the TV, man. Like, yeah, we sit closer to our displays, but I don't know about you. Like, I definitely every now and then I'll be lazy and I just won't want to grab my glasses, and I'll sit there and I'll play a game, and maybe it's in my own head. I'm like, I'm not. If it's multiplayer, like I'm not playing as well. I got to get that just extra little bit of sharpness. My eyes aren't bad at all, but I feel like I can't live without these glasses, man.
Well, and the thing is, too, the reason why I feel like I need to upgrade my prescription is because the last couple of times I've tried to put them on, it just feels like it's harder to look through. Like, it's not as if like it's still clear, but it does definitely feel as if on the back end my eyes have adjusted a little bit, and that like maybe from eye to glasses, it's sort of noticing that, and it's like trying to compensate for the difference, and it's like a minor struggle, but I definitely can't see myself wearing them for 8 hours in a day.
Would you ever do laser eye surgery? Would you ever consider that?
Maybe.
This is my baby step question towards like some sort of cybernetics or something, like some sort of machine augmentations.
I'm sure if my vision worsens in the future, possibly. Nothing's ever off the table. I was afraid of getting contacts because I used to watch my aunt put them in, and I'm like, how? Like, I can't touch my eyeball.
Not a chance.
How are you just okay with touching your eyeball? Like, It's so gross.
Yeah. Dude, like there's too many times where I like, even if I'm like rubbing my eye and there's something in there and like the scratching potential is way too high, and falling asleep with them in your eyes, that would be me every single night. Like I need to get a better like going to bed routine. Sometimes I'll just be like, I'll just sit on a chair until I kind of conk out. And it's like, that's like, you know, when you're 15, like that's how you go to bed when you're a child. Like now I should probably like brush my teeth or something, or I don't know, wash my face and have my nightgown on. I feel like there's like routines that people do. I'm very curious if there's
my wife is very good at those routines.
Yes.
She washes her face in the morning and at night, brushes her teeth in the morning and night. Like I brush my teeth in the morning and night as well, but like the face washing, sometimes I forget to do that. You know what I mean? Obviously, I forget to put my nightie on. You know, I'm still in my like boxers or whatever. That might be a little too much information.
Sometimes I wear this sweater to bed, man. Whatever. Like I am an absolute child.
I run hot at night, so if anything, the layers are coming off.
Damn.
Yeah. Not to say I'm not going completely nude or anything like that. You know.
So no contacts. No contacts. We gotta get your glasses. What's going on with the podcast, dude? What's going on with did you kill Jordan's podcast?
My goal in life is to make sure everybody else's podcast sinks and I continue to swim.
You mentioned it. Yeah. Just go one by one, sabotage everybody's podcast. I hope to God I can record one next week. Hopefully somebody will come along next Friday. So
I made sure this week that I recorded an episode so that way you wouldn't hold it over my head. Because on the last show, I missed like a week or two and you were like, well, Will, you forgot to record this week. And I'm like, I already took my 2-week vacation back in August. So now I have no excuse. And with this upcoming D23 Expo, I have to record something next week because I'm going to be inundated with all this news and I'm going to want to talk about it. So
did you watch the thing earlier today, the Disney and Marvel showcase that they did?
No, but I was getting because I was at the fall fair, so I was just getting the stories on my phone, and I was seeing, like, I'd pull up Twitter and I'd see like there was a trailer for like a Captain America Black Panther game, and I watched like 30 seconds of it with the sound off, and I'm like, I'm gonna just wait till I'm in a quiet dark room and watch it.
I really think like you're not really. I watched it and I don't know if you're really missing anything as far as like just getting the highlights off of IGN or whatever, or Twitter.
No, exactly. And most of the time that's how I roll, and that's probably going to be that way tomorrow when they do their big MCU showcase. But like, I rarely tend to watch things live as they're happening, especially like if I'm working in the office, like that's I'm being paid to work, not necessarily paid to watch a 1 hour live stream, although I would love to. I mean,
maybe next year, get a year under your belt. Yeah. Until you start
a little more confidence,
sneaking away. Exactly.
That's not to say I don't like drift off to Twitter every now and then.
Yeah. Like, I mean, earbud, you got the earbuds. You could easily just have something going. I know you're working from home too. Yeah. This is terrible. I'm like totally tempting you to the dark side, man.
I've already kind of, I've teased myself with the dark side a little bit. Like, I do have like YouTube playlists that I'll pop on for like focused music and stuff like that. And oddly enough, I don't like my taste in focused music tends to change, but I'm in this really weird, like, I need to listen to like ambient Silent Hill scary music.
Oh, okay. No, I agree too soon. Yeah, no. You're just getting in the Halloween spirit. It's like playing Christmas music in November.
I would listen to it all year round.
Okay. Yeah.
I absolutely love listening to those like dark sort of like, and sometimes it's the playlist that's like have the dark sort of liminal space like photos. I don't know if you've seen those before.
No.
So like I've been like kind of like semi-obsessed with the idea and concept of like liminal space, which is this big sort of thing that's taken off on the internet the last couple of years. And there's this YouTuber that made this, that's making this sort of almost like a creepypasta story about the back rooms. I don't know if you've heard of it.
This is like just on the fringe of my knowledge. I feel like I've heard this liminal space thing. Like, so yeah, like, okay. I mean, I'll play even part of the audience. Like, bring me up to speed and then we'll kind of dive into this. Like, what are you talking about here?
Yeah. So the idea of, I guess, liminal space, it's sort of like they talk about it as if like a transition from one space to another. and how they sort of articulate it in photos is it tends to be photos of like dimly lit, maybe foggy areas with like devoid of people or anything. And a lot of the times the pictures are areas that are like strangely familiar, places that you may have seen in like a dream or in a past life or stuff like that. So you're going to see a lot of photos of, say, like playgrounds and like empty streets with like no cars, no people. And most of the time it's either dark or the lighting is off and strange. Most of the time it looks like it was taken on a super old camera. And then transitioning to like YouTube, and they will collect all these photos and put a playlist of like ambient, dark, semi-creepy music to kind of go with it. And it's that's like, I would listen to that stuff all day, every day. Like if I could just make that music on like in a playlist on my phone and just drive in the car, I would. Like it's weird like how I've just sort of adopted that as my focus music for work. It's not even like the lo-fi, girl trying to study at her desk.
Yeah, that's mine.
Smooth jazz. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do appreciate the coffee house jazz.
Yeah.
Like, that's nice to listen to. And I've even put on like Animal Crossing music, because sometimes that stuff is cute.
It's kind of similar
to listen to. Mm-hmm. But then I always come back to the dark, like gritty, weird noise. And I reference Silent Hill because they have such a great, they have just great music. And they even have a playlist I found that's just the ambient sounds and noise and music from the games, each game. And I'll just say, like, today I'm going to listen to Silent Hill 3, and it'll just be like weird noises of just like strings and weird like slaps of drums. And I'm like, this would like freak anybody out. This, like, there's no way anybody would focus and work, but it keeps me going, and I can churn out a lot of stuff while listening to this random, I guess, noise metal, whatever it's called.
It seems unsettling, and there's no judgment, because I love listening to music that most people would think is like really, you listen to that? Like I love that, but like this is like, how do you discover this? I guess this is oddly like kind of what Donnie and I were talking about on Sweet Hangs, like that music discovery is so difficult. Like, how did you come across this? It's I don't imagine that it's just like on TV one day, or I don't know. Were you thinking of Silent Hill? You're like, I'd like to listen to like Silent Hill music. Like, I'm curious how you managed to get onto this path.
I mean, I've always been a fan of the games, and I think by association the music. But then I've always been sort of associated or really enjoyed like dark, kind of spooky stories, right? So like referencing back to like creepypastas, I'd love to read stuff on creepypastas, or I'd love to watch like videos or essays or people talking about the stories and stuff like that. But it also comes up in weird, obscure places too. Like I could be watching a video essay on like a video game, and they'll make reference to liminal spaces. And I'm like, then I go on this whole weird rabbit hole.
That algorithm, man.
Yeah. And I've my last year at this time, I think everything that was clouding my YouTube recommends was like reaction videos, and a lot of stuff from Twitch. And I've been trying to work really hard at trying to clear that and put in some interesting newer, like I like video essays, and specifically around video games or pop culture or anything like that. Even like that's sort of like social media and like that sort of thing. So I tried to subscribe to just a bunch of like YouTubers that were kind of putting out videos like that, and then ultimately my recommended feeds would just be populating me with like different content that was similar to what they was like what they were already working on.
It's interesting.
And then from there, of course,
it's interesting that, I remember, I don't know, maybe 50, God, it's been a long time. So I would obsess over like even before iTunes, I would obsess over my Winamp, MP3 library and everything, make sure everything's organized. And like, I would spend time to make sure that was a thing. And now that's not really a thing, because I like Apple Music mostly takes care of everything, and I would like, or YouTube Music or Spotify or whatever. So now instead of like obsessing over that, like we obsess over the algorithm. And it's so weird because it's not like you're physically like putting things into folders or anything. You're just feeding it. You're like entering things into searches, and you're subscribing to things to teach it to give you the things that you want, which I guess is kind of good to know that you want something different than what it's giving you. Is a lot of people, like myself included, just like, I guess I'll just zombie way my through YouTube, and whatever it's giving to me is, I guess what I'll watch, and I feel my soul dying every minute I spend on that stupid app.
Yeah, and I've also been trying to do that with, say, Facebook, Twitter, and even Instagram. Just like Facebook, for example, I went in and I mean, I don't use Facebook much anymore to begin with. It's still on my phone. Like I'll check the notifications occasionally, but I've basically unfollowed like my entire friend list except for my family and a few close friends. So maybe, and my feed will then populate me with everything that those people are doing. It's not going to populate me with, you know, what this person I haven't seen in 15 years from high school is doing, like the people I don't really care about, you know what I mean? So it's less busy, and I don't find myself scrolling as much because I'm already seeing everything that I need to see. And same with Twitter, sort of following certain people that may be at least relevant to what I'm interested in from a podcast standpoint. Following, say, the video game news or entertainment. But sometimes with Twitter, that can be a little tricky too. I know, you know, from just being on Twitter and seeing a lot of negativity that can come up from people and reacting to things or having a bad take on something. And it can really kind of weigh you down in terms of like, wow, like I really don't feel good just like scrolling through the feeds. Like everything's feeling very negative. So it's an app that you almost just shut off. And one that I'm kind of, so like the thing with Discord, I know I've actually muted all my notifications, so I have not been as active on Discord recently, and it's only because it's like the one app that is bringing my battery life down on my phone so quickly because I keep getting pings from everywhere, right? And I'm on a couple of different servers, and I keep telling myself I really need to condense it down to like maybe 5 or 6. Like I'm a part of maybe a dozen, and a lot of them I don't even go on anymore because it's just too much, right? Like I would stay on, obviously, Carpool Gaming's for sure. I would stay on Save the Game Media. I mean, I would stay on my own, but that's only because it's my own, right?
Makes sense.
Like maybe like 2 or 3 others, and that would be it. But it's hard to keep up with all the conversations too. It can be a little overwhelming at times. So it's like, where do I jump in? And sometimes it's almost easier not to say anything, and that's something that I feel is an area that I still need to improve on, right? Because especially because I kind of told myself that my goal was to sort of build a community, right? And
I see. You
know, I think from the last time we spoke, I have come a long way in terms of, you know, reaching out and befriending people within the community, or else like it wouldn't have given me the opportunity to jump on with Jordan for his podcast a couple of times, right? You know, and then I've had invitations to go on a couple of different shows, and I think I kind of put the pressure on myself and say that, like, you know, my setup is not there yet, you know, and now I'm back home recording my show, where of course the internet situation, it's sort of here or there. Like
somehow your home setup is less stable than your work. Like where were you recording, in an office at work, like in a plant? I was recording on like a Friday night or at the end of a shift on a Friday afternoon. Now I've kind of adjusted to recording on Wednesdays because it was so like the one day my wife's out of the house. That's everything.
I feel weird kind of recording in the same space as her, like sitting on the opposite end of the couch.
I would
too,
what I mean? Big time.
It's very weird, right? And it's one thing if I was, you know, podcasting with somebody. But because I'm running it solo, it just looks like me talking to myself for 40 minutes.
It looks like I'm talking to myself too. No, man, I used to, like, you know, I've moved my podcast setup a couple of times in this house, and back in the early days, I felt very self-conscious of Chelsea hearing just really one part of a podcast, where, especially if it was more than just one person, or even in this case where I'm mostly listening, it's silence for minutes on end. And then all of a sudden I just like jump in. So it's got to be very distracting. It might even be better for a solo podcaster, but we're in our heads no matter what. You know, when we're aware that there's another kind of person somewhere around. I was like this even with the phone. Like, I really don't like taking phone calls with people within earshot. I never understood how people could do it on public transit. They just like pick up the phone and just have like a full on conversation. Like, that is so awkward to me. Like, nobody wants to hear that. And how can you feel comfortable and be okay with that? I don't know. Especially for like calls that aren't like absolutely necessary for that moment. It's just like, oh, they're just talking about whatever life, I guess.
Or just throwing the phone on speaker so that you can hear both sides of the conversation.
Yeah, no, that's
right?
That's a special kind of narcissism for sure. So the solo thing's still going okay though? Like you're still just rocking it by yourself. Do you ever get the urge to like bring anybody else on, or like what are you thinking, man?
Yeah, so those urges definitely still come up. You know, I've been asked left, right, and center, like, hey man, I'd love to come and chat with you.
And like, no, absolutely not.
I'm like, yeah, I'll pencil you in next week, and then I secretly record my show.
Ghost them.
Oh, so sorry, we already
Damn.
But I think it's my own insecurities about my setup. Maybe that's what's holding me back. Is that like say with today, like if I know we were having the issues at the beginning, I'm sitting here worried it's on my end because I'm sitting as close to the window as possible with my phone hotspot on because I don't have the MiFi this week, right? And I'm like, it's me. It's definitely got to be me. That it's like,
it's not a big deal if it was though. Right? The thing is, and I'll let you off. Like it happened last week. We didn't have an episode last week because there was technical issues last week, and it's like it's not a big deal. The world keeps spinning. You know, we get. I guess the only crappy part is I'm just sad I didn't get to chat with who I was scheduled to chat with last week, like that. And then you kind of have to message that out. But like other than that, you know, it's whatever. And the thing is, like, these things just happen, and they seem to hit harder in the early days or whatever, like the first couple times. And then you come to realize, and this is why I'm telling you this story, is like happens to everybody. Like a computer crashes or Donnie's mic stops working in the middle of Sweet Hangs or whatever. Like these things happen. It's hardly ever anybody's fault except for Bad Bit. You know, but these things happen. It's not it wouldn't have been like a reflection on you or me or anybody, like whatever. It's just, it is what it is. So that's the one thing, I guess, even just doing this show in general, like, one of my original thoughts was like, could I even just do it?
Mm-hmm.
Just from a technical standpoint, like what would it take? Like, and figuring that out, I feel like that's something that I will bring with me for the rest of my life, is the lessons that you learn by going like, I don't know how to do this, but it seems like it could work in this way. Or even easier now is like other people are doing it. And if only there was like a vast collection of video instructions on how to do pretty much whatever you could ever want to do on the internet. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there's an app for that shows you a bunch of how-tos. I can't quite put the name on.
Yeah, man, there's resources and friends everywhere. So whatever you want to do, like it's just a matter of like typing it in or
and the thing is, nobody is coming to me, and the people who have reached out and asked that they want to come on and talk with me, they're not holding any ill will against me for, say, not bringing them on in a week or something like that.
Sure.
Like I guarantee you, before my 100th episode, I will have a guest on, because I've already told people. Yeah, I've already kind of told people this will happen. Like, we'll get you on to talk about this, you know. So I've already kind of put that out there. So now
I kind of like this.
Obviously,
you're kind of dangling it
again.
Yeah, you're kind of like, nobody gets on just yet. Like, I'm like, the door's open, everybody can get on this thing, and you're like, no, I kind of like this. It's like the Eric Cartman amusement park. Like, nobody's allowed in, but then everybody wants to be in.
Now that I've got the work laptop and the my Bluetooth AirPods, and I know the audio quality is at least good there, that is an option, right? And my other worry was that, like, my last setup with my microphone and my mixer didn't quite cut it. Then I talked about, like, well, I can just buy a USB microphone, plug it directly into the computer, and that would solve that issue, right?
Yeah.
But I also, like, my work laptop is way, way better than my old laptop that I'm currently recording on, which is almost like 20 years old at this point. I don't know how it's still running. It's well, 20 is a little bit of a stretch. Maybe 12. That's probably better. It's like an old Toshiba laptop.
Oh, that is. Yeah, they haven't made laptops in a long time.
Yeah, I've been using it since 2010, so before I started college.
Wow.
So it's been kicking. It's kicking around, but like, yeah. So I'm still using that, and it whirs just as loud as my PlayStation 4 does when I'm playing God of War.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it's still pretty loud, but like, it gets the job done. You know what I mean?
It connects to the internet.
It connects to the internet when I need it to.
That's all you need.
the audio mixer and the mic work when it needs to, and I've been able to figure out how to make the audio sound nice in post, and that's all that matters, right?
Look at you, man. You're getting every possible last ounce of effort and energy out of that laptop. That is incredible.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna burn it to the ground. That's for sure. It's it's gonna go. It's gonna basically. I'm gonna be recording an episode. It'll be on fire, and it's gonna be like, this is fine. Finish it.
I want to get eventually to. You brought up video essays, and I want to get to that too. But I'm while we're on the topic of your podcast and reaching episode 100 and everything. Like, what are you finding that you're either getting out of doing the podcast or like saying? Like, do you feel like you've found a voice? Do you feel like you found things that like you really need to like discuss and talk about? Like where is this thing kind of finding itself? I imagine you're finding your groove in some sort of way, and like what's the identity of it, I guess?
I have definitely sort of adopted it as if it's, part sort of breaking down the news that I feel like I can speak to in the industry that I'm covering, like games or movies, television.
Okay.
But yet there's a big emphasis now at the start of my show where I'm kind of going over what's new in my life, or what am I playing, what am I watching, and I try to put a lot more emphasis on that at the beginning, because I feel like that's where it's going to set myself apart from another show that is going to be basically talking about the same 2 or 3 stories that have already been discussed to death in the news, right? I still listen to a number of other gaming podcasts and stuff to get ideas for maybe stories, or be like, oh shoot, I should have covered that one, right? But I'm collecting different stories throughout the week and then kind of whittling them down and seeing like, what could I talk to? What is something that is like, at least like I feel like I have an opinion on to a point, you know what I mean? Like, and there are certain stories that I will keep in that I really don't have much of an opinion on, but I just think it's relevant news because it's like, it's hard hitting, or it's something that needs to be shared, and that's okay. And the length has slowly been getting longer. I've been finding, at least in the last 24 episodes. It used to be like 10 to 20 minutes, and now they're starting to go half hour to 40 minutes. And people ask me like, how is it that you run a solo podcast and are able to talk just yourself for 30 to 40 minutes? And I'm like, I guess I just like the sound of my voice. I don't know. And I think people have been kind of stroking my ego for a little too long, in terms of just the way my voice sounds. Like, people tell me I have a really great speaking voice. And then I've just been kind of letting that get to my head. And maybe that's where I guess my confidence in continuing to do this is. It's from that is I know that I have that talent to be able to do it. I have that writing ability to be able to put the script together, and then I also have been sort of following the industry for a while. But then it's also like, I'm now having people coming up and saying that they're listening, and people that are getting caught up on the episodes every week, and more people that are telling me this. I'm not necessarily seeing it in the numbers. Like, I hate to sort of compare my numbers to, say, another podcast that may be raking in like 20,000.
It's useless to do anyways. Yeah, it doesn't matter. And it gets hard, but then I'm like, well, like, I at least can put a face to a number of people that are listening to my show, and I think that that's a lot more important than, say, five zeros or something at the end of whoever's listening or downloading, right? Like, totally. At the end of the day, somebody is listening to this, and somebody is looking forward to seeing this show up in their feed. Yeah. Right. And so that's what I've still been doing this show for, is not only for myself but for those people. It's remarkable when you start to you put out, especially as a solo podcaster, you're really just you're almost putting it out into the void, and you're like, who knows? I'm enjoying doing this, and it's a creative muscle that I'm exercising here, and blah blah blah. But then somebody reaches out and goes hey man, that was cool, and you're like, what? You heard it? Did that? I don't imagine that was recent. I feel like you still had people. You had people letting you know and that they were out there and listening, even the last time that you were on. But I mean, this is all centered around your notion of building community, which is, I think, one of the big things that we connected on the last time that you were on the show as well. Yeah, and I mean, I've been telling people, I've been more comfortable telling people, even people that I don't think would even be interested, that I have a podcast, because people. Oh, there you go. People are
interested, regardless of what the topic is, when they hear that you do a podcast, like their ears perk up. They want to know more. Like I've had people at work that have actually been seeking it out. That's why I try not to ever talk bad about work, right? I just say only nice things about work. But it's nice to know that people are intrigued by the idea of podcasting. You see during COVID, like a lot of people were starting a podcast, right? Because they were all cooped up at home and they didn't really know what to do with themselves.
Yeah.
And now that we're sort of 2 and almost 3 years into it, and it's sort of, COVID's starting to fade away, people are starting to return to somewhat normal lives. I'm watching as a number of the shows that had started around the same time mine did are starting to dwindle out. Shows that I thought could carry on and were doing way better in terms of like viewership and listeners, and like there was a show that I listened to at like the peak of COVID, and we were just taking off at the same time, and they were getting like new guests on every week for their show. Like it was like almost like a talk show in a way, but like an hour-long talk show. And it was a show that I had guested on in my first year of podcasting. And then the one co-host went through basically 3 or 4 different co-host changes because his first co-host left, and he couldn't find that same groove. And then eventually they decided to part ways and go to Twitch and just do gaming, play games on Twitch, right? And I was like, that was a show that I didn't think would end, but then somehow I just keep trucking along because, like I said at the beginning, it's like I'm just trying to leave everybody else in the dust or something like that, right? But then I wanted to say this since I probably did say this at some point, but when I heard that you guys were rebranding as Carpool Gaming, that was another boost of sort of inspiration to keep going. I was like very humbled, very sort of honored to sort of watch that transition, and it felt natural. It felt like that was the way it was supposed to go, and that you sort of watching this community that's been slowly growing around you guys, and like you guys are now like operating as if it's like a professional, like this could be your full-time jobs.
We fooled you then. We've definitely fooled you. There's it's a lot of stuff, but I wouldn't say professional is really the word, but I appreciate the kind words, man.
Yeah, no, and it's inspiring to see that you have surrounded yourself with like-minded individuals that not only want to continue to see you succeed and are there every step of the way, but that you are also working together to build some truly remarkable content. But it inspires somebody like me, obviously it feels like the little guy, to just keep going. And eventually I have those little opportunities of like gold nuggets that sort of come up, being able to jump on with Jordan and guest on his show. I had opportunities to originally, before they went on hiatus, I was going to guest on Press YYZ. Like, unfortunately, those guys went on hiatus, so I didn't get to go on. But people were reaching out to me and asking if I wanted to come on and talk on a show. And that was something I didn't expect. I was like, you guys see me as sort of like a talking head, I guess, an expert or something in something like that. Yeah. That's cool that you thought of me. You know what I mean? It was something I never really considered, but I guess goes back to, in a way, like I had a weird sort of like small view of what building a community meant. But I mean, in a way, it's like we're all sort of one big community and we're just building each other up, and we're all kind of a part of each other's communities in a way. Like,
I agree.
It's not just like, you're not like the top of the food chain necessarily. It's not definitely like a inverted pyramid. It's like we're all sort of, we're all pieces of the puzzle in a way.
I was on Nintendo Pals last night, and I was saying that we're part of the like the indie podcast MCU, and there's all these different like storylines happening, and there's like there'll be the Avengers line that we eventually kind of all get to, but there's TV shows and there's miniseries and whatever happening on Disney Plus, and you can watch it all and listen to it all if you want to get the entire picture, but you don't need to. You can kind of jump from thing to thing. I feel like that analogy kind of works. And the thing that comes to mind to me as we're talking about this is like, isn't it remarkable that like, as we come to this point in our lives where this would be of interest to us, and we've moved away from the things that we were doing when we were teenagers and stuff like that, that like podcasts and video game communities and things just happen to be a thing right at the time that we need it probably the most. This isn't happening like when we're 75, this isn't happening when we're 10. It's happening like it's burgeoning now, like maybe for the last 5 or 6 years or something. But I don't know. I feel like there's something magical about that, like very, very serendipitous. That what are the chances that and maybe it's just maybe everybody sees themselves as lucky depending on just where they are in their life. Like not everybody is like us having, new dads and things like that. It's just as meaningful to somebody who is just getting out of college and finding a community, and it's a great time. So maybe that's just really the celebration is no matter where you are in your life, that this is a newfound thing that we're all kind of discovering all at the same time. And I don't know, it's like an alternative to like a curling league that we would join, like to just to have the social aspect of our lives. I feel like it's just an additional option to what would normally be pretty limited as far as, especially like guys like us, like dads with families and stuff, and you've got limited time to do whatever else other than family and work. There's, used to go play pool or play curling or whatever. I feel like, I'm wondering what Americans do. We all just play curling in the winter. Well, that's all we do.
Yeah, for me at least, it was hockey in the winter, lacrosse in the summer. That was that transition for me.
Yeah, some sort of like extracurricular. So I feel like it's kind of nice that this is here, and it seems to just tap into something. And I feel like that's more so the people starting up their own podcast and inviting people on. It's more about just finding people who you can kind of connect with and have a good chat with, and maybe drink a Budweiser and burp on a podcast and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think I burped at least like 3 or 4 times. I'm kind of counting it in my head.
You're manning
Whether
it
it's
up.
coming out on the mic or not, it's a whole different story.
It's the inner ear burp.
Yeah, it's the inner ear burp. Yeah, I mean, God, I would have loved to have been a part of this community, say like pre-COVID and even like earlier than that, right? But I'm glad that I was able to kind of come into this community when I did. And if anyone were to ask me like, well, like, how did you find it? It's again, like with the original, like, group of podcasters that I first kind of was speaking to when I started my show. I don't know. It just sort of happened. It could have been Twitter. It could have been on Discord. I mean, I think I just stumbled upon We the GamerCast on Twitter, for example, and I just looked through the names of like the guests that you had on and looked at some of their like history or like what they were doing. And I'm like, this seems interesting. And then listened to a couple of episodes and was like, that Brock McLaughlin guy's pretty interesting. Oh, he's local. Okay, cool.
Yeah, he's right around
the corner.
Like,
and then it felt like very hyper local in a way that it's like, well, it's a Canadian hosting it too. And I had that appreciation for that. I mean, let alone like the fact that this, we're in an era now where it seems so much easier to just turn on a mic and a camera and you can speak to somebody halfway across the world, right?
Yeah.
And, on back in the day, like say if I'm booting up like the old COD 4 on the Xbox 360, it's like I couldn't ever put a face to the voices I would hear on this like spotty chat, you know what I mean? But now it seems like we're speaking right now and there's a time difference most likely, right? Because of where you are and where I am, but like it's as if you could be sitting on the couch with me right now.
Totally.
Right? It's made it a whole lot more accessible. And the other thing too, and like getting back to what I was saying earlier about like how I've been kind of like muting my Discord, and it's not anything against anybody at all. I think it's just that like, again, I get overwhelmed sometimes with all the chatter, but even when I do hop on, it's as if I'm just picking up where I left off, and it's like I was there the whole time, and nobody's ever like. I made the comparison to like if you played Animal Crossing and if you leave your village for like a year and a half and then when you come back you'll have a villager be like, you've been gone 389 days. Where like, and right down to the date, the hour, the minute that you left. And it's like nobody ever does that on Discord.
We need a bot.
That would be awesome.
We're gonna get a bot for this actually. Like Will's first chat. Too. In
make it public so
days.
That everybody can see it and put you on blast. But like, no, I mean, like that's
we're gonna have that now.
Nice to be able to just slide in.
No, it's gone.
I do.
No, you can't. You can't just sneak back in. It will be announced. Hey, tag everybody.
I'm with you. I would love. I
know it sounds horrendous. No, I'm totally kidding. That's the whole thing. Is like. Some people, I don't know, and I hope that people who don't necessarily contribute, or I don't even like say, or like have something to say, don't feel like they are doing it wrong. Like, everybody is welcome, whether it's just like anybody on a Twitch stream or YouTube stream. Like if you're watching, that's great. If you're there, like if you're reading and like and if you feel welcome, that's everything. Like there's everything else falls into place. Like there's not any one way to do it. The fact of even the way that you talk about like your life path so far, it just shows that there's so many different ways to go about this thing. So to declare that doing Discord one way or another is right or wrong or in any way representative of someone's commitment or priority or whatever, like, dude, that's way too, that's another meter. We don't need a Discord meter in our Sims meter of priorities.
I know.
It's like, no. Just
mine
whatever.
would be bleeding red. It would be bleeding red. But I put that on myself. I think it's again the pressures of, man, I should be contributing more to Discord, or man, I really should start having guests on my podcast. It's like sort of those like, it could be the anxiety, could just be me putting pressure on myself. But it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, tomorrow I can just turn my notifications back on and I'll just be flooded with notifications from Discord again. It's like, I can do it at my own leisure. Nobody else is really holding me to that, or
right.
It's all on me. I think I put this pressure on myself and I make myself feel bad when it's not a bad thing. You know what I mean?
No, it shouldn't bring you stress like that. But don't you also think too, like you said something earlier about going to the gym, you just woke up and decided today's the day. Like sometimes that's just the way that it works. And I imagine it would be the same with this as well. And I would say even starting We the GamerCast felt very similar to that. And a lot of like some of the best things that I've ever done, like I just woke up and was like, I guess that's what I'm doing. Like it's a bathroom thought or whatever. I'm out on a walk and it's like, this is what we're doing. Like the rebrand out of Yumi Capri, very similar. It's just like, oh, this makes sense. Like there was something that kind of clicked and was like, okay, that's where it goes. So sometimes putting pressure, just I don't know about you, but like I met my wife when I was just like not looking at all. Like it's the moments where we're just like, just stop worrying about whatever that's all about, and then all of a sudden like there she is, like just like this moment.
And it feels so authentic too, like the way you describe that. You know what I mean? Like my wife and I met on a dating site. So I was technically seeking her out. Yeah. So
there's again no right way or wrong way. Like for me, it was I had thought like maybe that's just not happening for me. So yeah, and it was like the next day, it was like, okay, well there she is.
Yep. She just fell from the sky. Just
pretty much.
On your lap.
Yep. She started at work, and I got introduced and got nervous and ran away. And I was like, okay, and
that's cute.
And kept chatting. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, cool, man. Well, I appreciate your night tonight, and we only had one beer. I gotta. Maybe I'll just start getting hammered on this show. Maybe I'll do that to mix it up.
I'm a social drinker, so most of the time I only get like one or two in, and then it's like I'm done. I'm done for the night. I love
beer, though. Beer is just. I love all. I love everything, man. I really do. Yeah. You put anything in front of me, I'm like, that seems awesome to me.
I've been drinking a lot more. Like, it's gonna sound bad.
That sounded amazing.
A lot more. I've been drinking a lot more this week. My wife was actually away on vacation, doing a sort of like a summer camp, but she was like a lifeguard for this summer camp for the week. So I was home and got pretty rough last night. I'll have to admit. I decided to open up a bottle of Kraken rum and
oh my
Sprite.
Gosh.
And
what if you had to go somewhere? What if he got sick?
Oh, it was late in the night. I was home by myself watching some battle bots, and I thought,
what if he started like throwing up in the? Never mind. It's whatever, man. You do you.
Listen. You're not far off base. That is exactly what happened last night. Unfortunately.
There you go.
But it took one cup. That's all it took. So I'm like, okay, maybe I should drink slower, or maybe drink on a full stomach, perhaps. Like that might help.
Good advice.
I think it also kind of like the process kind of sped up as I fell asleep on the couch. So as soon as I got up, it was like, oh, you're gonna be sick, and I'm like, what? Like I've only been sleeping for half an hour.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
No,
old age is happening.
I had a nice buzz on Tuesday, though. I mean, I was home that first night. I was sipping a few drinks and some Smirnoff, watching the Elvis movie on television.
Oh, nice!
It was a good buzz, but yesterday was not. It was not a good buzz.
I like that you're rating your buzz. This is the best. Oh man,
I've had some pretty terrible buzzes though in the past.
Been there.
Yeah, my wedding night. Don't remember half of it. unfortunately.
I think Chelsea and I got married on a cruise ship, and I think I might have been drunk 4 times that day. From morning to
you're
night.
on a cruise ship, so that would make you sick.
It was awesome. No, it was amazing. It was on. I mean, maybe a lot of people say this about their best day ever. Just so much fun. Like morning drinks, like mimosas, and we got married in the afternoon, so drinks after that, then dinner, and then night. Oh, dude, it was the best. Such a good day.
I went hard from 8 p.m. till 10:30 of just people were buying me shots. And we didn't have an open bar. It was a closed bar. People were willing to buy me a shot, and I just kept taking them. And I was in front of the toilet for 2 hours and had to be carried out.
That's not no, that's not good. That's
I know.
Not what you want.
I'm and the fact that I woke up the next morning and I didn't know how I got there. I didn't know how I got in my PJs.
That's scary. That's scary.
No, the funny thing was that all of the guys. All the guys had superhero themed T-shirts underneath. That was part of my side of the wedding theme. She wanted the country theme with the cowboy boots. I wanted the superhero stuff. So all the guys, I bought them all stuff for their suits. They had little logos. I was Spider-Man, so I had a red shirt on underneath. And I guess at some point last night, somebody took my shirt and threw it in the tub with water, and the color just bled out. So my half-day state waking up the next morning looking at a tub of red, and I'm like, what the hell happened last night? And I'm walking around, people are passed out on the floor and in the living room and in the spare bedroom. I'm like, why are all these people here? And I'm starting to ask people to help fill in the gaps of the night. It felt like The Hangover, but there was no tiger involved. It was insane. But I had never been that drunk before. And I don't know how we got from let's talking about one social beer to let's talk about my wedding.
I was just about to say, well, now I'll change it a little bit. Will, I thank you so much for being on the show tonight, man. If anybody wants to send you tips to AA or anything or whatever, where can they reach you? Where can they find your podcast? Where can they reach you on the internet, my friend?
Yeah, so podcast is the Outbreak Podcast. It's available anywhere you listen to a podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever. I'm pretty active mostly on Twitter, so you can follow me at Will Key. My last name is spelled Kee. The podcast itself is also on Twitter. It's at Podcast Outbreak, all one word. And I mean, I could go into all my social media platforms, but I'll save it for my own show because I do a nice big breakdown on my show. If you want to find me anywhere, most of it involves a William or an Outbreak or an association of the two.
Cool, man. Well, let me know. I'll put all your links in the show notes for people. And just like that, I get a McDonald's Canada makes its appearance on the show. I don't even have to do it from a car. Thank you, Chelsea. I was just talking about you. And with that, man, thank you so much. And I'm glad we did it. We got together. We finally, yay. Thanks, dude. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
So I didn't get into too many of the details. By the way, I'm going back to the beginning. I'm going back to what we were talking about before. Thank you so much to Will for carving out time, man. That was a great chat. But I'm going to go back to the beginning. I want to talk about something. I don't have a lot of time to talk about it. So thank you guys for supporting the show. Follow me on Twitter at Sean Capri. Sean like Connery, Capri like the pants. Carpo Gaming, where Court is just taking over the world, which is incredible. I also need guests, actually. Let me know who you guys think should be a guest. That's maybe one little tweak. Who else other than yourself? I mean, if you have a mental show and you want to make, you can do that whole thing. But if you guys have somebody else in mind, feel free to reach out. No guarantees. I can't make any promises. Okay. With all that said, with all that out of the way, I want to tell you something, and I hope that this lands in a way that is a positive thing. Before the half marathon, I did a training run and it went horrendously. And I had a very challenging week on a variety of fronts, pretty much every single front. Everything that I kind of alluded to it with my chat with Will, like the whole Sims meters and stuff. Everything was crappy. And one of the reasons I enjoy running so much is because it feels like there's a wonderful cleanse that happens. And this cleanse happened for me on my half marathon. I was able to face my fears, face all my doubt, face all the things that were telling me, all the voices that were telling me I couldn't do it, and they literally were telling me I couldn't do it in a way I have never experienced before, and I did it. I got through a huge portion of that run without feeling anything. I got into my flow. I was positively thinking, and I had good messaging to myself, like I can do it, look how far I've come. I've done all the things, and then I did the thing, and my family and Marcus and his family were there, and it was amazing, and we did the great thing. And I'm proud of myself. This is why I didn't want to make it about myself at the beginning, but I'm going to make it about me in a way that hopefully will help you. I didn't think I could do it. I really, and I'm not just saying it, I had a tremendous amount of anxiety about this half marathon. I didn't think I gave myself enough time to train, which I didn't. I had done a training run that didn't go well, which seemed to solidify the fact that I couldn't do it, but I did it, and I did hard things, and I'm telling you guys, you can do hard things if you put your mind to it. I just cannot express this strongly enough. Do hard things, learn, allow yourself to learn lessons. I'm stumbling because it's the end of the episode. Here's a clip of Bobby Pauls on Breaking Bells with special guest Lachlan. You guys are amazing. I will see you next week. You are amazing. Hey, bye.
What I want to ask you guys now is, like, who are your unwanted? Like, is there something you just go, like, I can't have this guy on my village or girl on my village, my island?
Oh, God.
I mean, let me start. Mine is Jambet. That thing has to stay away.
Bobby, oh my God. You're really going to say that right in front of me?
What?
She's such an angel. She's my mascot.
You know why? Listen, this is why.
She does look creepy. She is creepy.
No, it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with every time I village hunt, your little troll posse that comes in and are like, hey, they're trying to marry.
I love it.
They're trying to ship Bill and Jambet. I'm not having it at all.
Yes, I love it.
No, you don't.
I'm for it.
No, you're not. No, you're not. Stop it.
I'm going to draw some fan art.
Oh, gosh.
Please don't. God, please don't. To be honest, probably, like, Diva bothers me a little bit.
Oh, yes.
Oh, whoa. Whoa.
I'm
What?
not a
This is
fan.
a frog-friendly zone.
It's not a frog friendly. I'm sorry. It's not frog friendly. Frogs.
I like the frogs, but she's
I
not
have
a
to
very good
say,
representation.
I think a lot of people think that I find the frogs really cute. Some of them are cute, don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But I actually just find them so weird looking. And that's kind of why I want them.
That's where the charm comes from.
Yeah, it's like this, like Diva, like I don't think she's cute.
Mhm.
She looks so odd. Jambet, don't even get me started on that mouth. Like that's scary. You know those things in like Super Mario Sunshine when they like latch onto you and they just keep like kissing you? That's what I imagine her to be like. So yeah, just to clear that up a little bit.
What about you, Locke? Is there any unwanted for you?
I don't know. I keep picturing Jitter's eyes, but I'm just like, it's like, I think it would fit for my island right now because it's Halloween themed and like he's like staring into your soul or he's not mentally there.
Yeah.
But any other time of the year, no, thank you.
I feel like a lot of the gorillas for me. Al, I don't want Al. Rocket is woof. I restarted my island. And not restarted. I got the third switch and I started up and I'm sitting there and we're going through the whole process as we're getting ready to start the new island and Rocket is there and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Everyone's like restart.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta restart the island. I literally restarted, went through the whole process again because I was like, that is not happening. I'm sorry.
I'm so glad I witnessed that, honestly.
That is not a thing.
I laughed so hard when I saw that. I was like, of course.
Yeah, I was like, that is not a thing that we want around here. So that's done.